Hello, everyone, and welcome to another conversation with Carrie and Dani. Um, I'm Carrie. I think sometimes we don't introduce ourselves, so I'm just a super quick. Former Seventh-day Adventist, was a fourth generation. My husband was an Adventist pastor. We are still married, but that kind of gives us a little bit of a background. Left the church about 3 years ago, and my pal Dani here. I live in Midwest, the United States, and this is my friend Dani is down under in New Zealand. So I don't know if do you say down under for New Zealand, or is that strictly for Australia? I want to make sure I'm doing it
Yeah,
right.
I'm a little bit flexible with it because I'm an Australian living in New Zealand, so
Yep.
works for me.
Yep.
So, hi everyone, I'm Danny. Oh my goodness, I live a couple of kilometers from the coast, and then there's a giant body of water, and there's nothing till you get to Antarctica. So I am at the butt end of the world, is what I like to tell people.
Hmm.
And I am a third generation Adventist on both sides. Well, actually fourth or fifth on one side. I told you that story one time, didn't I, Carrie, about we found a missionary in our family,
Oh, yep.
missionary for the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and she went down to Tasmania and fell in love with a Catholic boy and got pregnant out of wedlock and married him and didn't go to church anymore. So that she wasn't a great missionary, was she?
No. Mm-mm.
So I I don't know what to tell you about me. If you're just joining us and you don't really know us, I used to work as a counselor. I'm taking some time out due to some health issues for the last few years. And working in a prison, I think, was one of the things that really helped me start to get really disillusioned with the church.
Hmm.
Doing group therapy in a men's prison and hearing their stories and what they'd lived through and what had happened, and there were no answers for some of it. What do you say to someone that has said, "Oh, I had a car accident and killed my fiance, my kid, and the person I crashed into was a cousin, and they all died." And they cry every session because the guilt's overwhelming. I mean, there was no answers for this stuff
Hmm.
inside the church. There was no help. I was gonna say no support, but that's not true because I had support from other places.
Sure.
Um, we ran an AA-based programs. We talked a lot about God and higher power. And after having all these deep discussions all week, to go to church on Saturday, church was just irrelevant.
Yeah.
Light, fluffy, irrelevant, and full of you better be scared because God's coming back. It was, and when I look back now, I can see so clearly that church created the problem. Okay, the
Hmm.
problem is God's coming back really, really soon, and you're such an evil, sinful person. It's going to be awful, Daniel. You're going to end up in hell. And so
Hmm.
they created the problem I didn't know I had,
Yep.
and then gave me a solution to it. And you get
Yep.
stuck in this round, in a cycle of going round and round and round. And so,
Yep.
yeah, it became irrelevant once I started working as a counselor. So I've
Hmm.
taken time out of that. But so Gary, did you have anything you want to talk about? Because I've got a question, if not.
No, I don't. And this is sometimes what we do, folks, is we literally like Dani told me she had a topic, but she wouldn't tell me what it was, so we can have like just a natural, unrehearsed conversation. So, yeah, no, go ahead, Dani. I don't have anything off the top of my head.
Well, I'm interested to see which rabbit hole we end up in. And if it's a really short session, I'd chat, I can handle that. But one of my friends said to me, about 2 weeks ago now, and I can't believe how much it's stuck in my mind. And my friend said, "What's the saddest question in the Bible?" And I thought, that's really subjective, obviously. It's like saying, going to a cake shop and saying, "What's your favorite cake?" I mean, it's going to be different to everyone, but it's not something I'd thought about. But I mean, is there anything jumps to your mind instantly when I ask you what's the saddest question in the Bible? Just curious to see if your brain ends up the same place my friend's was.
I mean, it's honestly, it's nothing. I mean, it's not necessarily, she's not asking what the saddest story is, or it's just the saddest question. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'll tell you the saddest. And when she said it, I really felt it. It was like when she shared what she thought it was, I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I felt it, and then it was just nothing for a couple of days, and then it just started to like marinate and sink in.
Mm-hmm.
So she said the saddest question in the Bible is actually found in Genesis 3, and it is this: Who told you that? Who told you that? And so, I mean, the context for that question, of course,
Mm-hmm.
is God, and he's talking to Adam and Eve, and he asks it twice. He says, "Who told you that you were naked?"
Right.
And then further on, he says, yeah, who told you that you were naked? And then there was another one somewhere else. I'm sure he asked it more than once when I was looking through and reading it, but who told you that?
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
So who
Yeah.
told you that? Who told you that? So I'm just wondering, because we're all different,
Mm-hmm.
before keep before I say anything else about what's in my head, um, if I what comes to mind when you consider that question, who told you that? Anything?
Well, and for what popped in my head first right away is when a little girl thinks she's not pretty, or she thinks that, what she did wasn't good enough. And to me, it was just
Yeah,
when you think of a little girl who's like 7 years old and thinks they're ugly,
yeah.
who told her that? Let me smack them around. Like, who told you? Like, who lied to you? You know? But the specific question, um,
No,
like,
you're
okay,
exactly where I was thinking.
great minds think alike, Danny.
You're exactly where I was thinking. And my brain started to go further than that. And so I was thinking, basically, apart from where are you, it's like the first tough question that gets asked in the Bible. Who told you that?
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking how relevant it was to everything. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't have this podcast if 20 years ago we'd looked at everything we believed, everything we thought was true
Mm-hmm.
about ourselves, about life, about the afterlife, about God, about salvation, about anything.
Mm-hmm.
If we'd asked more often, who told us that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, who told you that you weren't good enough? Who told you you had to say yes and be nice to people?
Mm-hmm.
So I had
Yeah.
to sneak that one in there since we did that one on people pleasing.
Yeah, that's right.
Um,
That's right. And
who told you that? And so I haven't actually explored the Bible for any other who told you that stories. I was just thinking of the impact for us. And then I had crazy thoughts this morning. Not crazy, and then I was thinking that's from the negative side, but what if from the other side as well? Um, I, go- I know somebody that thinks they make great lasagna, and after tasting it, I can remember thinking, "Who told you that?
who lied to you?
Who
Yep.
told you?"
Yep. I know I've had a certain dish that a family member made, and they said, "Oh, this is like the best ever," and like their whole immediate family was like, "This is really, really good," and I tasted it. I'm like, I don't like it. It's not. Who told you? But I think, and part of that, when you say who told you that, and then my brain is going from, okay, the little girl. And then you're talking about, potentially questions on if we had questions 20 years ago about our doctrines and different things, and 20 years ago, I was the mom of a couple of toddlers, little kids. But if I had stopped to study things out myself, the sources I would have used at that time would be my Bible, Ellen White. I would have talked to my pastor husband, and and different things. But the the answer would be brighter minds than I have figured it out. So I just need to trust that the church has it figured out, and so I don't need to worry about it myself, you know? So,
When you say that, it really hits me. Okay,
mhm.
it hits me, and I get this like, oh, this feeling of when you say that, it just sounds so freaking ridiculous.
Well, and it does
Like
now.
seriously, what
Yeah.
what moronic stupid person could believe that? And then I'm like, me.
Not that long ago, Dani.
Me, not that long ago.
It's just that cascading of, you move that, have you played the game Jenga?
Yes.
You pull the wrong block and everything collapses.
Yeah.
And that block, it looks different for everybody else. It's the who told you that. For me, the who told you that question was eliminated for me was when I read Steve Daly's book about Ellen White. I took her out of the equation, and I was listening to Peter Dixon's recent interview on SDA Q&A with Ray Doherty and Stephen Beagle. They were
Hmm.
going back and forth in gospel Adventists and different things, and like, well, we go just by the Bible and all this stuff. But I'm like, the smugness of Adventists to believe that they are the one Christian denomination that looked at the Bible and came to a completely different conclusions than most other Christian denominations. But for me, you take the lens of Ellen White off, it's gone. She was the one through the different, from the church leaders and everything as I was growing up into my young adulthood, um, who told me that. I
She
take
was
her out, you know?
she was like an authority in our house. I can remember, oh my goodness, I can remember when we were kids and mum saying, what was it? Um, I can't remember exactly how it got phrased now, but I can remember her saying, you can't wear that to bed. So you could wear your nightshirt, but you couldn't wear your underwear to bed. Because Ellen White said you have to let your bits and pieces air. I've got I've got no idea if Ellen White said that or not. But I spent the majority of my life thinking she did because I was told from when I was a little kid. Ellen White said you I think she did say something about wearing tight clothing. I think, it's just how it got interpreted. Um, what else was there?
I remember, so quick side note.
You
So
go for it.
went on vacation with my parents, my grandma, and my brother and I when we were teenagers, and it was a cruise. The very first one I
Yeah.
went. Anyway, my parents got one room. My brother and I had to share with grandma. And for some reason, grandma thought she needed to tell me that's how she slept. She had a long nightgown on. I did not need to know she didn't wear undies. So maybe that's where she got it from because she was the pretty strict Adventist stuff. So that's a point of research, Dani. We need to figure this out. Where'd she say that?
Um, oh my goodness, I just Googled it. She didn't say you can't wear underwear to bed, I don't think, but there is one here in the former Adventist Living magazine that says, what have I found here? No, that's modest or holy clothes. Always the a thing going that I had. I, we'll have to look into that. Oh my goodness.
Okay, folks, come back for another conversation with Carrie and Dani. Maybe it'll get a little interesting.
But there were other ones I can remember too.
No,
I
go
can
ahead.
remember. I can remember being told, we can't stay living in Melbourne because Ellen White says at the end of time it's going to be flattened by an earthquake. I don't. Melbourne's the one, Victoria, Australia. I don't know if that actually exists either. Some of these things I actually haven't gone looking at since Um,
When my husband and I lived in New York City right after 9/11, we were attending the church, the little church there that they were super, super legalistic. I'm sure I've mentioned it before on our previous conversations, but the majority of the folks that attended that church were like bussed in from outside the city. They lived like an hour away. They didn't
yeah.
live in the city because, Ellen White said you shouldn't be living in cities.
I can't find the exact reference, but a quick Google while you were talking only came up with a note from the Adventist archives, but I can't see the quote for it saying, she advised that you shouldn't wear your day clothes to bed.
Oh, okay. So
Um,
maybe your mom was just misinformed, but
well, like I said, interpretation's everything. Who told you that?
I know when one of our church members in Minnesota, when my husband was there, um, they were very not, we'll just say not Ellen White people. And they said, and they would just mock and laugh and say, "Oh, we can't use black pepper because Ellen White says it excites the pancreas." But
Oh,
that's not the exact quote, but there's something obviously, you're not supposed to have black pepper, mustard, vinegar, whatever, all the yummy things in life, just so you know.
I remember that one. I
Hmm.
remember that one. I could hear as soon as you said that, I can hear my Nana's voice clear as day, and talking to our Uncle Lenny going, because he wasn't a believer and didn't go to church with that. And I could hear her going, Lenny, Lenny, don't you put pepper on those poached eggs. No pepper was allowed on his poached eggs.
One of
I think
my
about that every morning when I put pepper on my poached eggs. Seriously, I'm eating the pepper. I put it on my poached eggs, but I can still hear all the voices of the past and everything I've been told and read. It replays in my mind as I sprinkle it.
one of my husband's um fellow students at seminary also ended up pastoring in Minnesota. He's retired now. He was a second career pastor. I think he was in his 40s when he started pastoring.
Okay.
But he was doing a evangelistic series at his church, and it's they do the first few days, and then they do a day on Sabbath, and they invite everybody to stay for fellowship dinner and everything, and people are all sitting down, and one person's like, "Do you have any pepper?" Because they wanted to put, salt and pepper. And the
Yeah.
pastor, and he was second career. I don't remember for sure if he grew up Adventist. I don't think he did. And so he goes to the kitchen and is like, "Do you guys have any pepper?" One of our visitors is wanting it. And the woman in the kitchen like, "Oh, Pastor, we don't have pepper in our kitchen." And he's like, "Wait, what?" Like he had never heard that before. So I think that's a very cultural Adventist thing that I think is starting to kind of dissipate a bit, So again, that's one of those who told you.
I just,
So many of those Adventist cultural things that seem normal to us, and then when you start and think about it, who told you? Who told you it was okay to wear a brooch on your jacket, but don't you dare put it on a chain and put it around your neck?
oh, I've never considered that. I had a giant collect. I've still got, I can see my box. I still have a box of brooches. I have a box of brooches, pretty birds and giraffes and a little Noah's Ark, with little animals hanging off it. And
Hmm. I had
some
a
of them
Noah's
are,
Ark one too that I'd put on my lapel if I was wearing a blazer or some other,
I got some
fully.
quite large blingy brooches.
Hmm.
I sorry, I'd never considered it until you just asked that question. I mean, obviously I wear necklaces now, but I had not stopped. I'd never considered it. Not once in my whole time did I think my brooch is bigger and blingier and more ostentatious than that person's dainty little necklace.
Yeah. Or earrings,
Man.
So I mean, I thought about it a lot as from the time I was a teenager, I thought that was just ridiculous. Like it was just a standard that we had arbitrarily chose. Like it didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But I
Wow.
followed it, especially for those years that my husband was employed by the denomination
Yeah.
because I didn't want to do anything to get him in trouble.
Oh, wow. See, I'd never thought about that until you said it just then. Never crossed my mind. And I didn't ask those questions and things when I was younger. And for any of our watchers that might not have seen it, a couple of days ago on SDA Q&A, Peter Dixon did an interview with Christy Williams
Oh, yep, yep, I saw that
talking.
one.
Yep, and it was it Adventism, mind control since 1844. So what she actually does is she does an in-depth talk on trauma, and I've referred a few people to go and listen to that because she's explained it really, really well. And yeah, see, I grew up with a lot of childhood trauma, so when your brain is, always in that survival state, there's less space and energy and room for prefrontal cortex questions, of which the one you just asked is definitely one. It's a prefrontal cortex question. It's one of those higher reasoning ones. But when you're stuck in survival mode, there's no space for that. So I never had a lot of those questions growing up.
Well, and
Not
there's
ever.
so much of the thought stopping techniques and just like, no, you don't need to ask these questions. And it's so refreshing to be in. And I asked my husband, I think it was this morning, we were out working in the yard and because it's so hot here that we have work to do and we try to get it done, right away in the morning. And I
Yeah.
just said, I wonder what kind of a person I would be right now if I hadn't spent my formative and early 20s, those formative adult years and I told him, I said, no, absolutely no shade on you, hun, but being married to an Adventist pastor, being raised in the system, and
Yeah.
being unable to question. And my husband will good-naturedly say, oh, the kitty cat. We love our kitties.
Sorry, he must have pushed the door open and snuck in.
That's all right. He's very happy now. Aw, he's got a little goatee, little chinny chin. Um, and that's just something you just wonder and so my husband will good-naturedly sometimes say he's like, well, you didn't get a chance to really rebel as a teenager or in your early 20s, so you get to do it now.
I wonder about that too. It's for anyone that's coming out of a high control religion, these are, things you're going to think about.
And it's okay to ask questions, and I'm finally at that point in my life where I feel like it's safe to ask questions. And of course it depends. There's some people I'm not, there's some people I don't have certain conversations with. Oh, he's so happy. It's all right. I've
It's
got one on the floor right now by me demanding pets. So
right.
the one that was on
Sorry,
my lap a few minutes ago.
I normally chuck him out. I've been told that I can't even look at the screen. I've been told he looks like Hitler, but he's not going to look at the screen. I think he looks like Charlie Chaplin.
Yes, Charlie Chapman is much better. Charlie Chaplin. That's better.
So
Got that
I toss
silly
him
little
off because he's going to
mustache
bite
look.
me. I still feel like I'm living in an in-between stage sometimes.
Hmm.
And I don't know if I'll feel like that forever, or I don't know quite how aware the journey and where things are going, but I feel like I'm in the in-between stage sometimes. And so there's moments of there's still moments of, yeah, wow, life's so much better now, the whole freedom thing and stuff. Now that I'm outside of the I control religion. And there's still moments, like you said before, of great sadness because I never got to follow my dreams. I didn't do the things I really wanted to do
Hmm.
because they would have involved potentially working on a Friday night or on Saturday, or the training was on Saturdays,
Hmm.
um, and because I don't know, it's just so yeah, so it's still, wavers. It might, I guess it'll be like that forever, really. The wavering between
Well,
yay and oh, it's so sad all at the
and
same
I
time.
think we grew up with certainty for the most part. Like even if there were times that we didn't agree and we were very frustrated with the church and different things. I know for me, I believed that it was the true church, at least the closest we could find, and what the church believed was right. And so you were certain that things that you believed were true. And I wonder how many people who are not outside of a high control religion feel that way all the time, but they're okay with it, of not knowing that they're really it's absolutely okay not to be 100% certain about things. Because I think life having a little mystery is not a bad thing, you know? I think that, and for a short time we attended a Southern Baptist church, and to me it was one of the first times that I realized that there were denominations outside of Adventism that didn't have a set like eschatology, what they believed about the end times. So Southern Baptist, there's, several different things, and they don't really argue about it or care so much. Some will believe in like the left behind type situation and all this other in some, but they're okay with that because it's not a make or break. It's not a deal breaker for them. And so that was just weird to me because I'm just like, I thought you were supposed to have all of this stuff ironed out and figured out as a church, but most of
And
them
who
don't.
told us that? Who told you that? Who told you that you had to be certain of what was going to happen? Who told you you had to always have an answer for your faith? Who told you you had to always be right? Because if you can't answer the question, the person you can't didn't answer the question for might end up never getting to heaven.
Right. And
Because
don't make the church ever look bad. Don't cause your brother to stumble.
um,
Even if you personally think it's fine to drink coffee, don't let other people see you do it because you might make them stumble.
it's just
Hmm.
I think my friend was really, really right. My friend was right. I do think it's the saddest question in the Bible. Who told you that? And
Hmm.
I think that maybe not directly, but indirectly, the same person that convinced Adam and Eve of all those things. Um, some of his unwitting mates have told me things, and I believed them, and ended up
Hmm.
with the life that I had.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes I wish I belonged to a religion that believed you got more than one life. But it wouldn't be any use unless I got the second one knowing all the things that I know now. I wouldn't want to
Right.
do the same one over again.
No.
No, no way to that. It's
No.
just so I just want to encourage anyone listening to consider that question for everything that you believe, whatever it is that's holding you back, whatever it is that stops you following your dreams, whatever it is that every time that little voice pops up that maybe tells you to be quiet, not to be big, don't be bold, don't take up space, don't be loud. Um, I don't know what it is, feelings of guilt, shame, whatever those things are, any and all of them.
Hmm.
Keep the question. Who told me that? Who told you that? Keep it really close to your forefront.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ask
Always
questions.
asked is, yeah, do you believe something that was told to you by an unreliable source?
And
You know?
who told them that? And so on and so on and so on. And if
Yeah.
anyone thinks that there's a sadder question in the Bible, drop it in the comments because I'm really curious.
Yeah. Or keep it light and say, hey, what's the funniest question in the Bible? Or what, but the saddest question, that to me, that's something really to think about. I have to think, is there another one that's sadder? Yeah. Well, yeah, drop us a comment, like, subscribe, share. We'll see you all next time. Think about who told you that, or who told you you were naked.
Yeah.
Yeah, who told you that? All right, folks, we're gonna wind it up for today. We will see you next time on another conversation with Carrie and Dani. Have a great day. Bye, all.